You post something and people validate you.
But
so
to use national security secrets for that?
Well, because
the level of bad judgment.
Right, but the real scandal is not that he wants to do it.
You guys sound kind of old.
What?
And grumpy right now. I mean, let's be clear.
Sorry?
Yeah, such a bullshit.
Kids are immature. That's why they're kids.
Not at 21. Not all over the world.
21-year-olds are immature. That's why we don't let them drink until they're 21. That's why some of us don't think that 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds ought to be able to go get AR-15s.
They can go fight.
I think there are arguments.
They can be in the army.
Well, I think that's a discussion we should have, because I think
the
more
vote.
We know about
I thought if you vote, you should be able to have a certain level of maturity. They're deciding whether you should be in Congress or not.
Well, and by the way, I win those votes.
Hey, folks, Dale Jackson here. We've got to talk about this Congresswoman, Katie Porter. She is from California. She was on Bill Maher this weekend, and Bill Maher, once again, sounds like a sane person in a world of insane people. And Piers Morgan was there as well, again, sounding like a sane person in the world of insane people, because these two individuals were hardly people you would look to and say, wow, there's some really smart people. A very interesting series of conversations that these guys are having. The first one is about transgender sports. And Katie Porter, once again, knows nothing about this situation at all, except that she is afraid to say anything other than we should let biological men compete against women.
Nobody, including Riley Gaines, who I disagree with strongly, should feel physically...
What do you disagree with, out of interest?
I think that it should be up to sporting bodies to make the decisions about who and how should compete.
What has she said that's actually wrong?
I think that what she has done is try to turn this. We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing.
It's not?
I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to fairness and equality.
Well,
she actually competed against Leah Thomas, and it was obviously unfair. Leah Thomas won one of the races in the NCAA championships by 50 seconds against a bunch of biological females who simply couldn't keep up. That cannot be right. It cannot be fair.
That is something that I think our sporting bodies should be dealing with. And by the way, Riley is speaking up for herself, and that is her prerogative, and I respect her free speech.
I think she's speaking up for pretty much every female athlete in the world.
I mean, wasn't that the point of Title IX? Title IX in the early 70s was something that was it was a major event in feminism, that we finally have this law that says at colleges, right, and I think high schools too, but definitely colleges, women's sports have to be given equal to men's sports, so that women aren't and this led to the WNBA and lots of other stuff. This seems to be the opposite of that. It seems to be so many instances, I think, where wokeness is the opposite of what I grew up as liberalism. Liberalism was, let's give the women an equal shot. This is let's put a male in the swimming pool with the women. I don't get it.
It's crazy. And meanwhile, trans people who genuinely want to compete at athletics and swimming or whatever it may be, they're the ones who are suffering here. They need to be found a way to compete fairly and justly.
Well, what's your answer then?
I think there's one or two answers. I think they either compete against their biological sex, as many of them did before, or you create an entirely new category for transgender athletes. And then they're able to compete fairly. But what you cannot do is continue to allow more and more trans athletes to start decimating women's records, in some cases, irrevocably.
You can see that there is fear in the eye of Katie Porter here. She does not want to get caught on camera saying that biological men shouldn't compete against women, because they have to take this position where they pretend that it's completely fine that men are destroying women in sports. And the other two are sitting there saying, you realize this is asinine and absolutely ridiculous and actually hurts women. But on the scale of wokeness, transgenders apparently are at the very top, and Katie Porter is a coward. Now, Katie Porter is also one of those people that the left like to say, oh my God, she's so smart, she's so powerful, she's so strong. They want her to run for Senate because she puts up all these charts and things like that, and she acts kind of snarky, and it's very off-putting unless you like that kind of thing, like unlikable women like Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton and Katie Porter, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris. My God, there's a lot of liberal women that are just like this aura of confidence when they should have none. But forget about that. She makes terrible arguments. They're having a debate about the 21-year-old Air National Guard leaker from Massachusetts, and her response is basically, wow, you guys sound like a bunch of old fuddy-duddies. And Bill Maher just destroys her.
Okay, to do something for the likes, you know, that disease that happened to America, that every kid has to do something for the likes, I just think our kids are not mature.
Well, I think they're constantly seeking affirmation. This is because of things like Instagram.
It's
like
sickness.
you post something and people validate you.
But
So
do you use national security secrets for that?
Well, because
the level of bad judgment.
Right, but the real scandal is not that he wants to do it.
You guys sound kind of old.
What?
And grumpy right now. I mean, let's be clear.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's such a bullshit.
Kids are immature. That's why they're kids.
Not at 21. Not all over the world.
21-year-olds are immature. That's why we don't let them drink until they're 21. That's why some of us don't think that 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds ought to be able to go get AR-15s.
They can go fight.
I think there are arguments.
They can be in the army.
Well, I think that's a discussion we should have, because I think
They
the
can
more we
vote.
know about
I thought if you vote, you should be able to have a certain level of maturity. They're deciding whether you should be in Congress or not.
Well, and by the way, I win those votes.
What?
And I win those votes, and I'm proud of it. But what I'm saying is
you just said you win the votes of the immature.
Well, but the immature, first off, immaturity is not necessarily an age thing. You can be immature well
But you just
into
played
your
the age
adulthood.
card.
Yeah.
You were like, our argument sucks because we're old, which is
No, I didn't say that. I
that's
said
getting
you
so
sounded-
boring.
And by the way, I'm only 58, just for the record.
That's
What? I mean, but
not young.
Shouldn't we critique each other on the content of our ideas, not on those identity politics things?
Yes,
like,
but-
you're old, you couldn't possibly have the right idea.
But Bill, your whole complaint is that they're young.
I mean, if I said that about women or something, that wouldn't be right.
But your whole complaint is that this person was young.
Yeah, but isn't the point
Well,
really? Isn't
my
the point
complaint
really-
is that our young are immature.
Right.
That compared to other countries and other times in history, we raise very immature people because we coddle them. We give them a sense of entitlement. They don't have to learn anything in school.
I'd like to point out one more time that this is one of the heroes on the left right now. They are unlikable. They are terrible. They are generally mean, but because they're mean to the right people, people are somewhat impressed with them, and then they get attacked by the right people, so that they become victims. Katie Porter did a terrible job on this show. This was just some of how terrible she was, but she's like this all the time. And for some reason, those on the left still like her. She's actually not even that smart either, but they pretend that she is. Again, we went through that earlier. That's her lot here. They're going to pretend that she's this smart, wonderful, awesome person. She's not. She's awful.